Hi, I'm Ming from Amnesty International Australia. I'm the campaigner for Afghan women's rights and also look at gender equality on behalf of Amnesty. Well, Amnesty is working all around the world to support women in Afghanistan, and the reason is because, like you would have heard, under the Taliban, women were banned from working, girls couldn't go to school, and basically they were really suppressed and cut out of society. So in the last 11 to 12 years, women and girls in Afghanistan have started coming back into the workplace and school, and Amnesty International has been working with a whole range of women's rights advocates to make sure that they can get to be equal, in society. So with Amnesty Australia, we've been working with a lot of the Afghan communities in Australia, a range of women's groups in Australia as well, and the focus of our work is to make sure that Australia, our government, our parliament, that they do everything that they can to stand beside the women of Afghanistan, particularly at this critical time as presidential elections are looming up on the 5th of April. As I mentioned, in the last decade or so, a lot of women are now running their own businesses, have stood for parliament, are senior government officials, and a lot of girls have gone back to school. We have about a third of the students enrolled in school are girls, which is fantastic. However, there is a real risk that these gains are being wound back because of the new president that will come in. We want to make sure that new Afghan president and government are also committed to women's rights. And also the Afghanistan government and the Taliban are still undergoing peace talks. So given that the Taliban wasn't so supportive of women's rights, we want to make sure that situation, that grim reality, doesn't occur again for the women of Afghanistan. Education is critical. We've seen that, in fact, actually, about 3/4 of the world's illiterate are women. We've seen a very strong correlation between education levels of women and their empowerment and the status that they can gain in society, the choices that they have open to them, awareness of what independence and autonomy can be for them, how they can be politically represented as well, and also make sure that they've got choices for themselves and their families, so they don't stay in desperate poverty and they don't stay in cycles of violence. So education is a real key to women's empowerment. So in terms of gender equality, Amnesty makes sure that anyone, regardless of their gender, sexuality, sex, all of that they are equal. So in terms of gender, for us, gender is a social construction. It's stereotypes, and they can be used to restrict people's freedom. So, if someone is a woman, often the roles that are put upon us in society are very repressed and saying, women can't do this, women shouldn't do that, they shouldn't be able to speak so vocally in public, they shouldn't be able to be leaders of their country. So when we look at things like gender equality, we make sure that the country's laws don't inhibit women's freedom. So making sure that women can stand for president, that women can be equal participants in the political process, that even comes down to pretty crazy things like in Morocco, you might have heard, that a rapist usually could escape punishment if they married their victim. That was a law. Last month, that law was abolished, and Amnesty's been working really hard on those kind of crazy laws where inequality amongst genders is rife.
Yeah.
Amnesty is fantastic. I actually realised that I've been involved in Amnesty for almost 19 years.
Wow.
I used to be a volunteer at Sydney University, dressed up as a big candle, which is the symbol of our organisation, and I've been fundraising for them, and in the last few years I've been a campaigner. So what I love about Amnesty is that it's a global movement. We're the world's largest human rights movement, and that means that it's actually everyday people that are involved in the work. It's not just as a professional organisation. We are that, but we're also a grassroots movement. So the fact that I can work across the globe, I'm talking to my colleagues in the Philippines, in France, in New York, etc. We're all working together to make global impact. And the fact that we are international and that we're grassroots means that people power is really one of our key strengths. And that's why in the last kind of 52 years of our history, we've been able to make some really groundbreaking human rights change. International Women's Day is a very important day for me because on one hand, for me it's about celebrating and commemorating the millions of brave women that are standing up despite threats, death threats, despite real dangers to their own lives and their families' lives. They're still standing up and saying, we are not accepting this. We are equal and we're going to do something about that, and taking, the matter into their own hands. The second reason why International Women's Day is important is because I think it's a real opportunity to encourage men, women, children, everyone around the world to recognise that women are still 2/3 of the world's poor. That 1 in 5 women will experience rape or attempted rape in their lifetime. That even though women produce 2/3 of the world's food, they only own 1% of the world's land. Massive and very stark statistics like that. So it is an opportunity to recognise that there's so much more to be done, and that everyone can get involved, and you don't have to be a woman. We really would need men, the next generation, everyone to be involved in making sure that this world is better, not just for women but for everyone. My message would be that everyone can do something. Whatever your circumstance, whether it's about making change in your own life so that you feel you are being equally treated and deserve the dignity and respect, whether it's about reaching out and supporting your friends, whether it's about supporting people in your community, to say no to violence, to make sure that we have an equal voice in political affairs, corridors of power, through to building our own communities and peaceful families. And also saying that we can make change to women all around the world, and we need to make change, particularly if most people in Australia are pretty well off and have a good standard of living, and that we definitely need to make sure that we think about and care about and act upon our beliefs to help women all around the world.